All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Daily Intimacy. It is Tuesday morning. I'm excited to see you. Happy to have Robyn here and just really enjoying this gorgeous weather outside, this crisp spring morning. Let's begin with a centering. So have a breath. And as you're beginning to breathe and just maybe look around you, turning on your awareness, heightening your awareness through all of your senses. You start by just looking around and taking in the beauty in front of you, perhaps the colors, the textures, uh, the reminders of joy. Oh, gorgeous flowers. Yes, I bet some mothers out there, including myself, have some beautiful flowers. The scent. I brought some lilacs in, and the whole room smells like lilacs. So beautiful. And gently close your eyes when you're ready. And then as you turn that same level of alertness and awareness that you turn the volume up when you were looking out, I invite you to turn the volume up inside. So just notice, how's your breath flowing this morning? What is your energy like? Tuning into the luminous field around your body. What do you see or feel or sense, depending on how you're tuned into energy? See, feel, or sense the field around you. You might get an image of something or a color, or whether that luminous field is filled up or nice and clear. So you can invite just by asking that space to be clear, to have it cleared up. Any energies that came into your space while you were sleeping or yesterday that we tend to hold on to just because we do, or the energies are just sticky. I just ask that space to clear itself. Or be cleared by your support angels. And continuing to breathe, notice how you're feeling emotionally this morning. What's present for you? What parts want your attention, perhaps? Sometimes there's a young part that wants some attention, tries to get our attention in various ways, often physical. So just acknowledging with love the different things that you're noticing inside yourself this morning. Start by using the words sending love and the intention, and then at some point it becomes a more visceral or felt experience. And the question that's coming to me in this moment is, what contribution can I make today? What contribution can I make today? And that might be to the earth, to yourself, to somebody nearby, to your work, to your life. to your gardens. Like you get to notice not only what contribution you're making or want to, but where it goes. And take in the response that you hear, that you notice. Breathe it in, sort of affirming the gift that you are, that you have a contribution, and that your contribution is meaningful. Because it absolutely is. And take 3 nice deep breaths. Perhaps in through the nose and out through the mouth. One final breath. One final deep breath. And gently open your eyes and come on back. Open your eyes and before we begin, or before we continue, because we've already began, I would love to hear what contribution you are today. I asked it slightly differently in the meditation on purpose. So what contribution are you today? Feel free to unmute. Small group, so easy to do that. Or you can write in the chat. What contribution are you today?
I'll go. So I'm doing a lot of decluttering. I'm merging households here, and I've been absorbing some of my mom's things. So I've been asking myself about all the things out there, like what sparks joy. So who I am is I spark joy.
That's a wonderful contribution. Thank you. Brian?
I've been thinking about sharing the world my wonderful back scratches and rubs.
Yes to that. Thank you. Who else? Andrea, are you unmuting?
Yes, I am. I'm trying to.
I know.
Well, my mind came in. It was love. It was to be loving myself so I can give that back. It is. I've been self-critical for a while, and that just came in and poured in, and it felt good and a release. So that love is what is there today.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? Before I introduce.
I can go. I am here to share some of my journey and wisdom that I've learned and step out into being visible in a way that is here to serve others.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to your contribution here. All right. Well, if you have anything you feel to share in the chat about that, I would love to hear it. And I am so happy to introduce my friend Robyn. Double Robyn's in the house today. Some of you know Robyn. Some of you are meeting her. Who's meeting Robyn for the first time? Oh, cool. And Sandra, maybe. And Vlad, I think probably. And welcome back, Vlad. I am going to read Robyn's bio to you, or some part of her life to you. Yeah, because it's a great way to get a feel for who Robyn is. First, I'll just say that Robyn is a very good friend of mine, and she's come and participated in several of these over this year. And I feel like I introduced you before. It's like I'm maybe having a deja vu. But Robyn and I met on the dance floor a long time ago, and I was married and to JB, and who I'm still in great connection with. And Robyn came in to the dance, and she called him his JB in Spanish, Jotabe. And I was like, who is that woman? And they had known each other from college years ago. They were on the same or similar study abroad program. So it was like, here's this woman. She showed up back in his life and new in my life. And she and I just became dear friends over all these years. That was a really long time ago. I was like, I'm going to say it was 20 years ago. It probably was something like that. So very cool. All right. And we share that we are both psychotherapists and both coaches. So that's something that we also have in common. And Robyn has taken on this new language, which I really love, which is why I want to read this. So Robyn Weingarten is psychotherapist and coach, as I said, and mood whisperer, which I love. Joining us today to discuss the importance of community, self-empowerment, and peer support in elevating your mood and your life. Robyn has recently launched the free online community Facebook group called Spiral Up, which I love that language too, for adults with high functioning depression, which is something I hope you define for us, Robyn. Robyn draws upon her own long journey with depression, as well as years of working as a therapist in private practice and within the mental health system, to offer direction and hope for those who are ready to feel better. Robyn's approach is grounded in a deep belief in the resiliency that comes with tapping into one's own unique strengths and resources. It's really beautiful, Robyn. As someone who has family members with depression, I always leaned in the direction of anxiety, less depression for me, but in my family. And so I'm familiar with how at least I interact with that energy. And I love the positive, uplifting, light-filled energy of Spiral Up, and drawing upon strengths and resources anyway, and resiliency. Anyway, it all feels really good to me. So I'm really glad to have you here. And yeah, what else? I muted you, so feel free to unmute, of course, and add to that anything else.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robyn. Yeah. And let me just say that Robyn has been such an inspiration to me. For me to start my private practice as a therapist, and now to start this new way of coaching that is similar to how Robyn has been doing Come Back to Love. So I'm very excited to be part of this. And this is the first time I'm doing anything like this and talking publicly about this subject or about the work I'm doing, which I'm really just launching. So you guys are my laboratory right now. And I'm also not a morning person, so this is also a stretch. So far, so good. And
I just want to say what an act of self-love that is, Robyn. That, I know you're going to talk about this a bit, but yeah, it's such an act of self-love to step out and share openly, and yeah, thanks for doing it.
Yeah, thank you. Right, and so I think I actually would like to read the description of the group that I created on Facebook. And then I'm going to talk a little more about myself and lead you in some exercises. So, yeah. So many of us know what it feels like to spiral downwards in our thoughts, mood, and functioning. This group is a unique, supportive community in which we can share our victories, large and small, give and receive support, and learn to spiral up. The stigma associated with depression and all mental health issues can lead to shame, social isolation, and or pretending to be okay when we are not. Showing up in community with and for each other is a key to our recovery. Join us if you are ready to take your healing to the next level. Some topics we'll cover include training and practice and peer support and coaching, opportunities to connect with accountability buddies, cultivating healthy habits such as exercise, diet, sleep, social connection, learning positive communication skills, asking for what you need and setting boundaries with compassion, finding the right next steps for you and getting the support you need to keep going with encouragement to get back on track when you need to. Developing a recovery mindset, working with your thoughts, working with the inner critic, shifting from shame to self-compassion, celebrating progress, and finally, creating your own recovery support team. So I wanted to read that because so far that is the main thing I've done with Spiral Up, is write that. But anyway, what I'd like to share first is that I kind of always knew that I was going to be a therapist or that I was going to be a psychologist or something. And it just seemed that at some point at a young age, I started to deal with my own struggles with depression, unfortunately. Just, you know, and sort of ruminating thoughts and anxiety. And I really became kind of a student of my own mind in a way. And through journaling, I really worked a lot with my own thoughts and my own moods. And my inner critic, some of you may also have an inner critic, became very active in that process. And I know a lot of us, probably all of us here, are very into personal growth, going to workshops like this, and which is wonderful. And I also think the drive for self-improvement can be motivated by our inner critic too, or maybe even by a level of shame of like, okay, we gotta fix this, gotta get better. So I have a very, very strong part of me that's driven to keep being better and getting better. And that has served me well, but also I think been my downfall in some ways. And I've had to learn really to bring in gentleness and kindness and compassion toward myself. And part of that process with my journey with depression has been also hiding and being, you know, when I say high functioning depression, what I mean is that for many of us, we still, people might not guess that. A lot of people say, well, I wouldn't have guessed that about you because I hide it really well. And when I'm around people, I tend to be more upbeat and happy. It's when I'm alone in my head and in my thoughts that I can be much more down. What was I just talking about? Then I lose my train of thought.
High functioning depression.
Thank you, Robyn.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, so being able to, you know, like go and do your job, do a high functioning job, maybe, you know, accomplish things in life. I mean, I definitely identify with that, and I think a lot of people do. But what I have found over the years is that I was brought up and have the education and a lot of the skills in the background to have a very quote unquote high functioning life. But to be able to do all of the self-care and have a social life and have a relationship and have a high functioning job and take care of my home and all that. I mean, and we all struggle with those things. I know that balancing is so hard for all of us. For me, it just became really clear that like, that's not happening. It's just too much. And a lot of times what I have sacrificed or what tends to get lost is my social connections. And one of the reasons that I wanted to form this community and this new way of working with people is because I have become a therapist over the years, and therapy is vital and crucially important. And I'm sure, you know, people here have benefited from that. And medication is also really helpful for a lot of people, and it's been helpful for me. But I think that we get into, there's a culture of sort of pathology and a medical model for mental health issues and other health issues, frankly, where we go and we are the consumer. We are, going to someone to help us and fix us or whatever. And insurance pays for that, which is also nice. And what I found in my work life, I worked for a while in the mental health system with adults who are clients of the Department of Mental Health in Massachusetts. So there are services available to people whose lives are very low functioning, quote unquote, who really need help with very, very basic life skills. And I realized at some point that what is there for the rest of us who are high functioning, who don't qualify for those types of services besides therapy and meds? And, I'm aware of the 12-step programs for addictions and realized that peer support, there are some organizations actually that work with depression and mental health issues, but it's not as widespread as 12-step. So my idea is that being able to talk about it and come out of hiding and support each other, it's not so much going to be about let's talk about how bad we feel and what all our problems are in our lives, but it is, well, I need a walking buddy. I need an accountability buddy. I need to take more showers in the pandemic. How can I stay in touch with people? Robyn knows that I do better when we schedule a phone call. We all have things like that we need. I know for me, I forget that I have friends. And so these are all things that are not unique to depression and not unique to me, but I am aware of how difficult it can be when you're struggling with certain types of mental health and mood issues. So let me pause for a minute and say this has been a very nonlinear way of introducing what I'm doing. And I guess I just want to ask if anyone has anything that's coming up while I'm talking that you would like to ask or share briefly before we get into exercises, because I'm just curious about whether there's anything bubbling up in you, and if not, that's totally fine. In the chat or in the voice.
Me in the chat or just unmute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I welcome you if you have anything coming up that you'd like to share. So I want to say something about stigma. Yes, there's really a stigma for any mental health issues, and the word depression itself, I'm finding very challenging to even use associated with my work. And some of you may be familiar with Brene Brown. Brene Brown is a researcher, has worked on shame a lot, and she has gone out and talked about shame, and people didn't want her to talk about that topic, even though she's a renowned speaker, because the word shame apparently brings up shame for people. So I think depression may have some of that same bad rap in a way as well. So what I would like
Robyn, I just listened to Brene Brown's Netflix. I listened to it instead of watched it.
Mm-hmm.
She tells a story about, I'm not going to get it exactly right, but when she just decided to get all vulnerable and share whatever with this group, and she knew it would be a disaster, and she didn't think it was anything, and her husband was like, oh God, why did you do that? Kind of thing. And that was the thing that went totally viral, and everybody loved it. And, just exploded in terms of, her presence in the world. So kind of interesting.
Yeah. Right.
Went to those places that are so uncomfortable, like the word depression, or things that people can feel shame about.
Right. Yeah. I think Brian was waving. I guess he had to go.
Yeah, Brian has something to say
Yeah.
too.
Right. Yeah. Robyn, I relate to how you said you're very upbeat with others, and then when you're alone,
You feel more low.
yeah, for me, it seems to be a matter of being honest with true feelings and advocating for myself throughout all of my experiences. Thank you, Erin. Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to also say that, being a therapist, I, have been trained in the traditional model where we don't really share about ourselves a lot. When we share about ourselves as therapists, it's usually there's got to be a good reason therapeutically, which I adhere to that. And so this is really a stretch to choose to self-disclose. And I believe that it's really a direction that is needed, because most people in the mental health field certainly have had some encounters with their own mental health issues or people that they love. Sandra says, a lot of this feels like where I'm at in my journey, even wanting to be a therapist. I've grown more this past year through shadow work and spiritual community. Then with 10 years of therapy, I'm also interested in stepping away from medications and using alternative therapies like microdosing. Yes, so there's lots of interesting new stuff going on that I think is promising also. There's not a one right answer. There's not a one right path. So I want to thank you for sharing, Sandra and Erin and anyone else who cares to share. So in the spirit of that being in community and peer support are things that I'm really working to cultivate. What I wanted to invite you to do is we're going to have people break up into pairs in a breakout room setting. And so distracting. How can I ignore it? I'm gonna ignore it. I'm ignoring the Zoom.
Yeah, ignore the Zoom and just
yeah. Right. No, it's okay. So I would like to ask people to pair up, and you'll have 3 minutes each to share, and the other person will just be listening, and at the end could offer some reflections of what you heard, just to check and see if you really got the essence of what they were saying, not necessarily repeating back every word. And what I wanted to invite you to share about is reflecting back on the last year since we've been in the pandemic, and life has been really different for a lot of people. Just what do you feel like have been sort of the highlights and lowlights of that experience for you? Just maybe to scan over it, and you might land on one thing and share about that. And what I want to invite you to notice is, how do you feel if you're the person sharing, and how do you feel if you're the person listening? How does it affect your mood and your feeling about yourself to be in either role? What comes up for you? So again, the question is, how are you doing with the pandemic? What have been the highs and lows for you? And if you want to also consider, what's next for you, what are you taking away from this experience, which I know is not over, but is transforming in a lot of ways, that will inform how you live going forward, if there's any different way that you are choosing to live going forward. So I'm going to ask you, Robyn, to pair us up for 3 minutes each, and then we'll come back and share.
Yeah, there's groups of 3, so we'll do 3 minutes each, and I'll keep track. And then when we come back, we can reflect on what, like, the other questions around what that was like to be hearing and listening. Okay, see you in a bit. Robyn, don't go. I don't think, or maybe you are going. Erin, you don't need to go if you're still listening to me because they have 3 in that room, or you can go if you want to. And Vlad, same for you. You can stay right here. In the recording, there we go.
Right. So,
How was that to be in the breakout rooms? Yeah.
yeah. So I was going to ask if you would like to share a word or two about how it was for you to be sharing, the person sharing.
Looks like Leslie Ann wants to share, so let's hear.
Okay, go ahead, Leslie.
Thank you. Yeah, to be honest, before the exercise, I felt like, oh, I don't want to do this. I was like, I want to leave. And I've noticed often it's like this for me when before an interaction, a social thing, I have this, I don't know why, this resistance. And then when I'm doing it, I enjoy it. You know, I enjoy the connection. I enjoy talking and being listened to. I also really enjoy listening, but I know that's not the question right now. But yeah, I don't know why, what's the reason for it, but I have this resistance. I don't want to do it, but then when I do it, I guess sometimes I don't like it, but this time I did like it. So that's what I observed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to share how it was for you to be the person talking?
That makes sense, Leslie Ann. I just want to say before we hear from Sandra, it's like, I know for me, I don't know if this is what it was for you, but I know for me, if I'm feeling vulnerable or I'm just feeling like in my shell, you know, and there's this invitation to do something more vulnerable or uncomfortable, where there's undoubtedly some gifts, whether they feel good or don't feel good, still gifts. Anyway, just relating to what you shared. And Sandra.
Yes, so it was actually really nice to hear about what was coming up for people, what this sort of, you know, what sort of breakthroughs or shifts were happening, not just because I felt like my own experience was mirrored in it, but it was also just like a happy reminder of like part of why we're here together, you know, in this, you know, in this world, even in this space. And so yeah, listening for me, it was like energizing and it was nourishing. And again, isolating was something I was struggling with before the pandemic. And then when I wanted to come out of it, we had to go into the pandemic. And so that forced me to go in, which is a blessing in disguise, I think. Yeah, it was just really nice to see that, like, and also someone mentioned like not necessarily holding on to the fear that, you know, the pandemic itself sort of wrought. And I think that I also resonated with that because that then freed up so much more space to be with other things as they came up. So it was good.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, Sandra.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, anyone else? And also, if there's no one else who wants to share about that, how was it for you to be in the listening role? And I'm just curious, you know, if people found it a little difficult to really pay attention. Were you more kind of caught up in your own thoughts? Or did you feel like it was really helpful for you in a way to hear other people sharing? Just curious about that.
Hey, let's
Andrea. Yeah.
Me?
You.
All right. I really actually enjoyed listening. I was able to resonate to hear. It brought a different perspective. Of course, you're thinking of yourself, but when you heard the other person, gratitude, it just flowed in. And then to hear another, share the similar experiences, to know the unity, it became a strength for me. So I enjoyed the listening. Of course, I love to speak, but I did really get a lot from the listening. So thank you for sharing that. That was awesome.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah.
That's awesome. True listening is to me so invaluable, and also I kind of want to say rare, because when I work with a lot of couples, as I think you guys know, and I always say, like, I teach communication, and I say, like, we're never really listening, because when someone's talking, we're actually thinking. So it's like, to bring that awareness to it and drop into true listening is such a gift.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, part of why I wanted to do this very simple exercise is because people who are struggling with depression or just with any personal problem that's challenging are often forgetting that being there for other people can be one of the things that helps the most. Seeing yourself as a resource, and that you're in this together, that you're not alone, rather than just isolating and trying to feel better and then you go out in the world and connect. So that's one of the things I'm trying to create with this.
That's really important, Robyn, like, to get out of, you didn't say this, but the way I'm hearing it, or the way that I think I experience that, is like getting out of myself and like putting my own sort of stuff aside and being and listening and support of someone else feels good.
Yeah.
I do remember when my partner died a long time ago, that my aunt like called me and passed on that advice. And at first I was like, I was like irritated. And then I was like, well, okay, I don't know what to do, so I'll try that. And it was really helpful.
Yeah.
It was really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing I find in my work as a therapist is that a lot of people don't know that it's okay to reach out for support, or they don't have anyone they can do that with besides a therapist. Bye, Laura. Nice to be with you. So, and having community where you can be authentic and real is something that I think some of us have found here and in other places, but a lot of people have not found that. So it's just really important, I think, and very necessary, especially in our world today. I guess we don't really have time for another breakout room, huh?
We don't.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what you have plans, but maybe you have a thought, but I actually am really curious to hear if anybody wanted to share that reflection of the year, because, coming to a close with the daily intimacy at the end of this month. Not that there won't be other venues and places to share and things, but it is a nice opportunity to hear if anybody wanted to share that piece. But that's just my.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
It's like, oh, great, Sandra.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to say, I think one of my biggest, so I mentioned in the breakout that I've been having a series of awakenings, even more recently, a mini Kundalini awakening, which has been really fascinating and a little intense, but it all started with me being able to start feeling again, and creating, being more in my body. And then I would say that my biggest lesson was about intimacy, because I always thought I had a fear of intimacy only as it sort of related to sex. And like, I knew that I was hiding from people. I was afraid to be seen in general, but I didn't understand how that fear of intimacy actually translated into like a fear of life. How I was very, because the process of letting life in and changing you, being open to circumstance and relationship, like that's an intimate thing, and I could see why I was scared of that. And so I've been relaxing into being, I've been relaxing and opening up, and it's been huge. My life feels very, very different. And I also said that this sort of coincided with my first Saturn return. So, I just turned 30, and so all of this is like huge shifts.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's beautiful. It's amazing how we think we can filter some things out, but what we can't really we're not selective that way. Do you know what I mean? Like we try to, like when we're closed up to one thing, we're sort of closed off to other things as well.
Right.
I didn't know life could feel this good.
Oh, yeah.
And I know I'm just beginning.
It's gonna keep feeling better and better.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's really great to hear about. Yeah. I'm curious if people have thoughts about how you want to live differently than maybe before the pandemic. If you've got any clarity about that.
Mm-hmm. Looks like Leslie Ann maybe is
Yeah.
unmuting.
Okay, Leslie Ann, go for it.
So I don't know, like what I would like is to have a group like this, people like this in my life physically, you know? That's
Mm.
the big thing. But I don't know how to, it doesn't seem to, I guess, I don't know, it's very rare to have this openness. For me, anyways, where I live, it's very hard for me to, it's been hard for me to find this in the places I've lived. So I don't know if it's because it's in Boston, the Boston area, or people are more open, or if it's just rare in humans. And it's just the question of finding it. But I would really love that going forward. But part of it is not under my control, you know, I feel so.
Mm.
Mm.
Is it not in your control?
Well, I mean, how can I make people, you know, what do you think, Robyn?
Just asking.
Yeah. Is it under my control? I don't know. I can't control the people around me, you know? Like it's.
I guess I would ask, you know, what would be a step that you can take to try to create that, even on a small level? And you don't have to answer that right now, just a question
Yeah.
to think about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I would ask, yeah, what else is possible?
right. Yeah.
And I love that you said that, you shared that. It just because you shared it, it lets the universe know that actually you're wanting something different. And that's a wonderful first step.
Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Mm.
Yeah. I know for me that I shared that I really got clear that all the driving around and just to go to social gatherings, I realized that it's not really the way that I most want to connect with people. And so I want to create more conscious ways of connecting closer to home and in smaller one-on-one or in smaller groups, which I've done more in the pandemic. So
Mm. Yeah, for me, it's balance. Balance, balance, balance. This year has been amazing in terms of self-care, healing, growth, and balance in my life. I've said that a lot and written about it a lot, but just want to say it again in answer to your question, Robyn. I am not planning on going back to anything, just moving forward.
Right. Yeah.
Erin shared, I relate to that, Leslie, and I enjoyed all the self-care and community meetups over the past year. It's reminding me that there are like-minded people interested in growth nearby, and nearby doesn't need to be physical. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Well, Robyn, thank you so much for being here, for taking whatever risks you took to be here and to bringing this really important topic that, you know, like you said, people have shame about. I think that's evident given that this is a small group and, you know, for people to show up for themselves and the vulnerability of like, yeah, I'm depressed or I feel depressed or that's something I struggle with is, like you said, it's still really sadly stigmatized in our culture, which is so sad to me. I feel like, okay, the question I'm having now is like, what else is possible, you know, with that? And, you know, maybe you are one who's going to spearhead that and launch some new energy around being human. It's human to feel depressed.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And, you know, it's pretty clear to me that the word depression doesn't attract people. And I
Right.
know that just
Yeah,
like shame does not attract people. And,
Right.
I'm having trouble sleeping ever since I started using the word depression to describe what I'm doing. And so it's probably going to be not as prominent. But it's really interesting just to see how people react
Yeah.
and what words, what languaging does attract people to do the work, to show up in community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw Erin's comment because you were in a breakout room, and I don't know how that works with Zoom, but she had written above like that she really likes the word mood whisperer.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Erin.
Really
Thank
loves.
you.
that's
Yes, whispering your mood.
Yeah. Well, mood whisperer. Whisperer is like somebody who's right, like attuned in, listening, and
Yeah.
able to
Right.
shift and change things. So beautiful. So thank you, everybody. We do have 2 more weeks, and we have 2 fabulous, oh my God, such fabulous people coming, continuing. Everybody who's come has been so fabulous. Next week is Becky Vollmer, who I met at Kripalu about 14 months ago or more, year and a half ago. She's a wonderful human. And on our last day, we have Charlie Verge, who is a dear, dear friend and longtime spiritual seeker, student, teacher. And he's going to bring some really beautiful gifts on that last day in May. So lots of love to you today. Blessings, blessings. And yeah, continue to be love, and see you next week. Thanks, Robyn.
Thank you.